Hello friends, I welcome you in this lesson. So, this is the lesson number 5 in the series of inflation. And here I am going to discuss certain very important areas, especially the measurement of inflation, right? So, till now we have discussed what is the meaning of inflation, what are the different types of inflation, what are the different causes of inflation, what are the impacts of inflation, and how to control the inflation. Now, in this lecture, I will tell you how do we calculate the inflation, because inflation is something which we should calculate. So, how do we calculate the inflation, right? So, what will be the content of this lecture? So, in this lecture, I'll focus upon the price index, right? Then how to measure the inflation based upon the price index, CPI, WPI, PPI, and there are lots of related terms that we will be discussing in the subsequent part, which include the disinflation, reinflation, reflation, deflation, Phillips curve, Miser index, base effect, inflation targeting, and then we will discuss some recent trends, and finally we will also discuss the previous year questions. So, what is inflation? We have already discussed this thing in detail in the lecture number 1, but I am just refreshing over here. So, you might have heard from your forefathers, from your father, from your grandfather, that the land prices for the house that you live in were just few hundred rupees or few thousand rupees when they purchased that land. Maybe 50 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago. But now the prices are in lakhs or maybe in crores. So the land is same, the area of land is same, the location is same, the person who is living in the land is same, but still the prices are rising. So why the prices are rising? The prices are rising because of the interplay of demand and supply forces. So if we talk about the land is finite. Land has limited supply, right? So the supply is limited, but demand is increasing. And why the demand is increasing? Because the population is increasing. The population growth rate in India is very high, but land does not increase. So when there is supply which is stagnant, but the demand which is increasing, so price will decrease, increase, or will remain same? The price will increase. It is a common sense. When something is in short supply, but more people are demanding, then the price or the value of that good will automatically increase, right? So similarly, here you can see a cup of coffee. The price in 1970 was 0.25 unit, and in 2019 this price is 1.59 per unit per cup of coffee. This increment, it shows something. First of all, it shows that the unit remains same, that is 1 cup, but the price is changing. Now suppose here in this example, the buyer had $2 currency, sorry. Now in this $2, how many cup of coffee the buyer can buy? The buyer can buy 8 cup of coffee. In 1980, in the same $2, the buyer can buy approximately 4 cup of coffee. In 1990, in the same $2, the buyer can buy approximately 3, between 2 to 3 cup. In 2000, the buyer can buy 2 cup. In 2010, the buyer can buy approximately 1.7 cup. And now in 2019, in the same $2, the buyer will be able to buy only 1 cup of coffee. So, in $2, in two unit of currency, earlier 8 cup were coming, now only 1 cup is coming. So, don't you think that the value of currency is declining? The purchasing power of currency has been declining. The same $2 which used to buy 8 cups of coffee, now they are buying only 1 cup of coffee. That means the purchasing power of the dollar has come down. So this is the impact of the inflation, right? This is the biggest impact of the inflation. So let us see the definition as per the United Nations. As per the United Nations, inflation means the rise in the general level of prices. First of all, it is a rise. So there is an upward movement of the prices. General means it is all across the different goods and services. It is not restricted to a single commodity or single service. In the level of prices, so we are talking about the prices, right, of goods and services. So we are talking both about goods and services. We are not talking only of goods or only of services. We are considering both. In an economy over a period of time. So we are comparing the price at one point of time to the price in another point of time. So if we see in the previous slide, we are comparing the price of 1970 to the 1980, then 1990, 2000, 2010 and then 2019. So this comparison is happening over a period of time. When the price level rises, each unit of currency buys fewer goods and services. So we have already seen that $2 which used to buy the 8 cup of coffee, now they are able to buy only 1 cup of coffee. Consequently, annual inflation is also an erosion in the purchasing power of money. Yeah, that is true. The purchasing power of the dollar is declining. Now, as per Economic Survey 2008-9, what is inflation? So, this definition we are looking from the perspective of estimation, from the perspective of measurement. So, according to the Economic Survey of 2008-9, the inflation is estimated as the percentage rate of change. So this estimation happens in the percentage form, right? Percentage rate of change, and this is basically nothing but rise only, that is upward movement, percentage rise in the price index. So what is price index? We will see that over the reference time period. This is very important. Reference time period. There is some reference time period which we also call as the base year, right? Now, what is price index? Price index. What is price index? So, to understand this, first let us take one real life example, right? So, for example, we take the example of 1 cup of tea. The price of 1 cup of tea. The prices of 1 cup of tea, they have been moving like this: 2015, 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019 and 2020. Now, what are the prices of the 1 cup of tea? 5 rupees, 6 rupees, 6.5, 7 rupees, 8 rupees and 9 rupees. Now let us calculate the price index. So just assume that is 5 rupees is equal to 100 price index. this is equal to 100 price index. Now if 5 is equal to 100, 6 will be equal to how much? Can you think of that? So it is very simple. If 100 is equal to 5, that means if we derive the value of 6, that will be 120. So price index of 2016 price is 120. Similarly, for this, the price index we will take from the base year. So for this, the price index will be 100 upon 5 multiplied by 6.5, that is 130. Similarly, for 7 it will be 140, 160 and 180. So this is what we call as the price index. This is the price index. So 100, 120, 30, 40, 60 and 80. So can you see that if this is the base year or this is the reference time period, every year the price index is showing the increasing trend, and this increasing trend is exactly similar to this increasing price from 5 to 6 to 6.5 to 7 to 7.8 and then 9, right? So what is price index? The price index is, it's a kind of average. It's a kind of average which is reflecting the change in the value, the change in the price over a reference period. So here the reference period is 2015 and reference value is 100. So as compared to 100, the value now is 120, 130, 140, 160, 180. So this is price index, right? Now what is inflation or the rate of inflation? So how do we calculate the rate of inflation? So rate of inflation is that how much percentage, we have already seen in the previous slide, percentage rise in the price, percentage rise in the price index, right? So in 2016, how much is the percentage change? So we will take the price of the current year, the price index. We will take the price index. So for the rate of inflation, we will always take the price index as the reference point. We will not take the actual price. So for rate of inflation, 120 is the current year's price index. Then we will see the previous year's price index, that is 100, and then we will divide it by the previous year's price index and we will multiply it with the 100 and it comes to 20%. So 20% is the rate of inflation. I know, I understand that you might not be clear about what I just said. You might be a little bit confused. You might be a little bit, struggling in what I am saying. But this is the starting point of the discussion. So as we move ahead, you will become much more clear. I will give the formulas. I will give the explanation. I will give I will link those formulas, explanation, concept with this example. So understand this example as a starting point, right? So again, coming back to the 2016, in 2016 the rate of inflation is 20%, and how did we calculate? We calculated by, so current year's price index minus previous year's price index divided by previous year's price index. Similarly, for 2017, current year price index minus previous year price index. So please take care, in this case we are not taking the price index of reference period. For calculation of inflation, we will take the price index of previous year. So in case of calculation of price index, we have always been taking the base year as the reference time. In case of rate of inflation calculation, we will be taking the previous year, that is the last year, as a reference time. But why we are taking the previous year? Why we are not taking the base year? Because the rate of inflation is calculated on year to year basis. पिछले साल के मुकाबले कितना रेट बढ़ा है हम वो देख रहे हैं. We are not saying that how much is the increase in price compared to 2015, the base year. We are seeing how much is the price increase compared to the last year, that is 2016. So we are actually checking out the increase in price since last year. We are not checking out the increase in price since the base year. That is why in case of rate of inflation calculation, the figure of previous year price index is taken, the figure of base year price index is not taken. I hope the things are becoming much more clear to you, right? So coming back here, 130 minus 120 divided by what? Divided by current year price index or previous year price index? Clear, it is previous year price index multiplied by 100, and this figure comes to approximately 8.33%. 8.33%. So this 20% is rate of inflation of 2016. Similarly, 8.33% is rate of inflation of 2017, right? Similarly, in this case, the rate of inflation will come to 7.6%. So I'm not calculating. I'm not calculating in detail, but this calculation is as per the formula only, 7.6%. Now I am going to take this discussion to the next level. I am going to touch the concept of base year or base effect, right? So just manage for a couple of minutes, right? So now please see here. So here the price index was 120. Then it became 130. Then it became 140, right? So let me change the color of pointer so that the things are much more clear to you. Okay. So 120, 130 and 140. So doesn't it look like the prices are rising at a constant rate? Earlier the price index was 120, then now price index was 130, and finally it became 140. So there is equal increase in the prices. Are you thinking like that? If you are thinking like that, you are mistaken. And let me show you how. So specifically from 120 to 130 there is increment of 10 points. From 130 to 140 there is increment of 10 points, right? However, this 10-point increment is over 120. The base for 10 points increment here, it is 120. But in case of here, this is 130. So previously the base was low. Now the base is high. And because of that, what is the impact? So when the base was low, that is when the base was 120, then the rate of inflation was 8.33%, and now when the base is 130, little bit higher, the rate of inflation is declining. So because of the base effect, when the base year in the previous year the base is low, then the rate of inflation might look like high in the current year, and vice versa. And at this point of time, friends, I understand, I know that few of you may not be clear about what I am saying. As I already told you that this discussion I did at slightly higher level, but this concept again I will discuss in the subsequent slides. So don't worry. Whatever you understood is perfect fine, right? Or what you can do, you can again go back to the discussion for maybe last 4-5 minutes and just revise it fast, and then you can start again, right? Okay, so this is the example. Now based upon this example, we will be discussing all the concepts subsequently, right? So price index. What is price index? Price index is a specialized average. Why we are saying specialized? Because This is about the prices. It is only talking about the prices. That measures changes in the prices over a period of time. So we have seen it is measuring the change in the price of the cup of tea from 2015 to 2020. Now how do we construct the price index? For constructing the price index, we measure the rise in the price of current year over the price of base year. Over the price of base year. This is not saying over the price of previous year. So in case of price index, we will compare the price of current year to the price of base year. So in the example that we discussed, here we can see for 2016 we compared the price of base year, that is 5 rupees, here again 5 rupees, and here also again 5 rupees. So price index is equal to current year price. For example, if we take 2016, current year price is 6 rupees per cup of tea divided by base year price, that is 5 rupees per cup of tea multiplied by 100, and which will be equal to how much? So 6 rupees divided by 5 into 100, it will be equal to 120, and that is the price index of 2016. Right? So this is the formula. The price at the base time will be at the denominator, and it will be in the numerator. So the point is that this price index we are calculating with reference to the base period. This thing we have to emphasize again and again, right? As far as examination is concerned, you don't need to remember this formula, but definitely if the concept is clear, then you can solve any type of question. We will also be giving certain practice questions after this class discussion is over. So this is another example that I took, and I have given this example in the study material. You can refer from there. The example that I have already discussed, I think that is sufficient from understanding perspective. So how do we calculate the price index? Index number is value in the period of interest, that is the current year, divided by values in the base period, right, multiplied by 100, right? Now how do we calculate the inflation? So for calculation of inflation, we are taking the current price index and reducing the last year price index and divided by the last period. Here, please keep in mind, this is not the base period. In case of price index, we are referring to the base year price, but in case of calculation of inflation, we are referring to the previous year, last period, right? Why that? Again, I have already told you that inflation is calculated with reference to the last year. We are comparing the price of last year to the current year, and in case of price index, we are actually taking the reference of base year. Example. This example, I think you can understand from that example that I have already given. So base year is used only to calculate the index number, right? So base year is used only to calculate the index number, and inflation is calculated as a percentage of rise over the last year, not over the base year. I think this concept is very much clear to you now. Inflation is measured with the help of wholesale price index or consumer price index. So the price index that we discussed, the prices that we took, 5 rupees, 6 rupees, 7 rupees, 8 rupees, 9 rupees, those prices, they can be different at the wholesale level and they can be different at the consumer level. So which price we will take depends upon which price index we are calculating. So if we are calculating at the wholesale level, we will be picking up wholesale price index. If we are calculating at the consumer level, then we will be taking the consumer price index. The percentage of rise in the price index. So rise in what? Rise in prices or rise in price index? Price index of a particular period from the previous period. Here, please keep in mind, previous period, not the base year. Price index and previous year का क्या? Price index is the rate of inflation. So this is the definition of rate of inflation. Inflation is calculated on the basis of weighted index numbers. Now this is a new concept. So what is the meaning of weighted index number? So friends, we have seen that in case of a cup of tea, the prices were 5 rupees, 6 rupees, 6.5, 7, 8 and 9. So that is for single commodity. Similarly, if we talk about the inflation of the country or a state, then there thousands of commodities exist, thousands of items exist. It is not a single item. So, first of all, it is not possible to consider the price of each and every commodity or service. We have to consider, a basket of goods and services which are consumed most. So they are called the representative basket of goods and services. So suppose there are thousands of items. Out of thousands of items, we will be picking maybe 500 items, 600 items, and those items will be such items which are used in day-to-day life or which are holding a very high value or for which the price volatility is very high. So those items will be representing the entire 1000 items. Now, each of the item may not be equally important. So, for example, we take salt, we take maybe wheat atta. So, do you think the change in price of salt will have an equal impact as the change in the price of wheat atta will have? No. If there is increase in the price of salt by 50%, it will have not much impact because we are consuming very low amount of salt. But if the price of wheat atta is increased by 50%, it will create a very dangerous situation in the country because each and every person is consuming atta and this consumption quantity is very, very high. So, what do you think? Which item should be given more importance when we are calculating the inflation? The question is in your court. So, which item should be given more importance? The answer is very clear. It is the wheat atta which should be given more importance. Right? So, this is how we pick up the item and we take the weightage of those items based upon the importance of those items in the usage. Right? So, here comes the role of weighted index number. So, this price index is for single item, but because we are taking hundreds of items, so we have to combine the index numbers of all of them, and index number of each of those items does not have the equal significance. The significance depends upon the weightage, the usage of those commodity by the human beings. So that weightage is reflected in this weighted index number. Right? I hope now the example is very much clear. So we will be giving more weightage to the wheat atta. In the weighted index number, this wheat atta will be having more value compared to the salt. Another aspect is year-on-year inflation. So, in our example, we discussed 2015, 2016, 2017, 2018, 19 and 20. And we took the prices and we calculated the price index. Now, what is the meaning of year-on-year inflation? Year-on-year inflation means we are calculating the price of this commodity in the corresponding period of last year. So, for example, coming back to the example of a cup of tea. So, in case of a cup of tea, if the price of that cup of tea in the week 20 was 5 rupees in 2016, we will compare the price of tea in week 20 only. That is rupees 6, then 7, 8, 9. So we will compare from week 20 to week 20, the corresponding period. We will not refer to another week, because another week will not be a correct reference time, right? So this is called year on year inflation or point to point inflation concept. This concept is also called as the point to point inflation concept, right? So year on year inflation means rate of change of inflation over the corresponding period. This period can be week also, this period can be month also, quarter also, in relation to the frequency of data of the previous year. But this should belong to the previous year, because we are calculating year on year. So if we are taking the average price of tea for the month of September 2018, then that 2018 period will be calculated in 17, 19, 16 whatsoever. So same month will be compared to the same month in the subsequent year. So this is called as year on year inflation. Now weighted indexes, right? So this concept, let us see a couple of things over here. So here you can see, okay, we will discuss this I think in the later part. So with this I complete this session, and in the coming session we will discuss the concept of WPI, the concept of CPI, the concept of PPI also, right? So the next lecture is going to be very, very useful. Don't miss the lecture. Thank you very much.